Well, thanks very much indeed. It's a pleasure to be here again this year and to be able to launch a report that is even more positive than the one last year. I think the truth is we have come a considerable distance even in the last 12 to 18 months. And I think that's measured in international confidence, which obviously is explicit when it comes to US companies putting their hard-earned dollars into Ireland. But also I think on the broader front, you can see there is a growing confidence in Ireland. We've hit all our fiscal targets. We are coming out the other side of the bank consolidation and restructuring that has been so painful. A long way to go in getting our banks to the point where they are genuinely the sort of banking to small and exporting economies like our own, but we have come a considerable distance. We have brought down the international spreads on our interest rates. We have improved our competitiveness by 20 points in the world ranking, or by 5 points in the world ranking, but you can see that in better unit wage costs, better property costs, all right across a range of indicators. We are becoming much more edgy in terms of competitiveness. And I think we're slowly putting behind us the aberration that was part of the noughties when I suppose we pursued a dream that couldn't ever deliver sustainable growth. The notion that a property boom could be the substitute for being competitive in export markets, building strong enterprises, sustainable on the basis of their ability to sell and find customers abroad. So we are undergoing a major transformation in the economy itself, as quite apart from the public finances and the banking. And that transformation is also beginning to take hold. And it's very much clear in the stats on US investment and generally foreign investment in Ireland. In the 3 years up to 2011, up to March 2011, when I suppose our own start, we saw 15,000 jobs go in foreign-owned companies, a net reduction of 15,000 in foreign-owned companies. In the 18 months since that, we have seen a 10,000 increase in the number of people working in foreign-owned companies. And that is a dramatic turnaround, and it is part of the sort of transformation that this economy is seeking to undertake. I think the features of government policy that are trying to drive this is one, and I think to pick up one of the points Peter O'Neill was saying, the pattern of fiscal consolidation that we have adopted is one designed to make it easier for enterprise to thrive. So that even though we're having to take a lot of money out of the economy, we're striking the balance in such a way that it helps employment. We're taking more out on the expenditure side rather than the tax side. We're broadening the tax base to tax property rather than taxing work. These are difficult changes, undoubtedly difficult changes. We're also creating, even within a very difficult fiscal environment, new incentives to support enterprise. And last year, you'll know that we improved the investment schemes for indigenous companies like seed capital and an employment investment scheme. We improved the R&D tax credits. We improved, the SARP. We improved the reliefs for people putting bodies on the ground in countries like the BRIC countries, where opportunities lie for growing investment. So that's really a big part of what we're seeking to do. Yes, we have to do banking and fiscal consolidation, but we must seek to do that in a way that is as job-friendly as possible. And I think that's a really important for companies investing from overseas, just as it is important for businesses, and we want to make Ireland, the best small country in which to do business by 2016. So it's absolutely important. And as I say, we are making headway. I think I saw in the blurb for today, we are now the best country in the Eurozone for doing business. We are ranked number 1. We are ranked in the top 10 worldwide. We are, clawing our way back. The second big driver of change that we're seeking to implement to make it easier for companies like yourselves is the concept of, we've called it the Action Plan for Jobs. But the concept of it is very simple. That it is to say that the whole of government has a responsibility in making the environment easier for job creation. It's not just one department or the Minister for Finance with his tax policy. It could be, today it could be health. If we can get, creative companies getting access to our consultants and our health system to test bed new technologies, that could be just as important an initiative as something that would be taken directly in a department like my own. And we have created a health innovation hub as part of our action plan to seek to capitalise that, pilot changes that could make a difference. Right across the spectrum, there are opportunities in different departments and agencies to become more open to the capacity of enterprise and innovation to transform the way we do business. And I think that is a very important element. But not only, I suppose, are we asking every government department and every agency to play a part, and we took out, I think, 270 actions that could be done in 2012. But we're also holding people rigidly to account in terms of hitting quarterly deadlines and milestones. That is basically foreign to the thinking of most public service bodies in the past. They don't work to those sort of deadlines. They have the lofty ambitions, not without ambition, but implementation has always been a problem. We are now, focusing on implementation, and we've hit 95% of our targets. We have hit in the first half of this year. And it's been driven not just from my department, but from the Taoiseach's department. So it is very much top down. We are saying, this isn't just about fixing banks and fiscal, it's about fixing people's lives through creating enterprise and employment and what drives the transformation in this economy. I think, though, while we reflect this year on a wonderful year for US investment, and the names of the companies, I won't go through them because for fear of leaving anyone out, but the names of the companies who've invested this year in Ireland is like a who's who of the most dynamic companies in the world. And we're really privileged that they are picking Ireland as being a place to invest. But while the 4 T's are what the IDA always sell Ireland, technology, talent, tax, and a track record. And I think while we can, we are still even on skills. We are ranked as the best country in the world in which to get skills. So that in some areas there are worldwide shortages. We still are ranking best, but the best isn't good enough. And I think that point was well made by Peter. And I think we have to continuously look at, in our Action Plan 2013, what changes do we need to make to consolidate that. And I've taken note of the point that I know Peter has made to me in the past of the need to look afresh at our green card system. And we are doing that within my department. Last year, I think 1,000 people in ICT skills, for example, came through our system, and it was I think 93% approval rate. But I think there are still people who there are still, if you like, glitches in our system, and we have real opportunity to reform that and make it easier for people to do business. We also, as Peter has pointed out, we need to build the skill base more effectively here, and Rory Quinn, you will know, has committed to doubling the output of people from the ICT sectors over the coming years. And that's a mix of short-term conversion courses plus longer-term investment in the, if you like, the long courses of degree and postgraduate in these areas. But I think Joseph made the point too that we need to look afresh at the concept of Ireland as the gateway, not just the gateway to Europe, but a gateway further afield. And I think that's an important takeaway for us to reflect upon. I see real scope also for deepening, and I suppose the IBM story is a really good one. IBM, when I was involved back in 14, 15 years ago, and Pat Toole was the driver of change in IBM and brought it to Ireland. The profile of IBM in Ireland was totally different from what it is now. IBM has evolved and changed over that period. It has built in new skills into what it's done. It has picked Ireland to be one of the key research centres, and it's so wonderful to go out and see their smart cities and what they're doing about creating a smarter planet and the potential spin-offs from that. That's the journey that Ireland needs to make, to be upgrading the sort of work that we're capable of doing for international companies. And it's really heartening to see more international companies investing their R&D capability in Ireland. And I think that's a journey that we want to sustain and develop. I also believe, and it came to my mind last week when I had the privilege of going out to Google where they were opening their data centre. And it struck me that 80% of the design, the technology, the construction of that world best data center came from Irish-based companies who were either doing the project management, the design, the whole end-to-end piece. That is a huge strength that we have developed that I suppose perhaps is sometimes glided over. It's not just that Google is creating so many jobs in Ireland, or that PayPal, but that underneath that we have a whole network of indigenous companies who have built their quality to the standards that can deliver for companies who have the most demanding standards in the world. And I think that's something that we need to deepen, that capacity to sell Ireland as not just a great place because of tax and talent and so on, but that it is a low-risk place where you can get projects completed very quickly and very well to the very highest standards. And I think, during the course of this year, we set up a joint management team between Enterprise Ireland and IDA to see, can we exploit more effectively the capacity of the two sectors, the FDI and the indigenous, to both sell ourselves better and to grow those relationships. Because ultimately that's how we embed the talent that has come from US companies. And many of them are I suppose, their alma mater was from in US companies. Again, I remember speaking to Intel, and Eamon Sinnott said to me there that there are more people working, Irish people working in companies outside of Intel who started in Intel than there are working in Intel itself. So more than 4,000 people are graduates of Intel, and they have moved on to spread that capability into other companies, both indigenous and overseas. So I think there's real scope to deepen those relationships. And our ambition is that Ireland would be a startup, would be a go-to place for any startup because of the environment we've created, the support structure that's there. I think Peter and Heinrich touched on Ireland and Europe and our role undertaking the presidency in the coming months. And I think this is a very significant opportunity for us, not only to show ourselves to be effective managers of the European agenda, but also to showcase what we have achieved in Ireland and to build that international confidence to another level. As Heinrich said, there is huge scope in if we can get a mandate during our presidency to start a free trade agreement with the US. As he said himself, the non-trade barriers are huge. I think the stats say that even if we reduce the non-trade barriers by 1/4, it would add over 100 billion to Ireland and US GDP. If we could remove the non-tariff or the tariff barriers entirely, we would achieve more than the flagship project which Europe has achieved, namely the free trade agreement with Korea. So I think the figure is 45% of the potential new trade that Europe could achieve from free trade agreements would come from an agreement on the transatlantic front with the US. That's a prize that we really should go after, and we are very keen in having the presidency to try and advance that. We will have what they call an informal council, bringing ministers here to discuss that in particular, along with other issues. Of course, the wider European stability is vital. I mean, I was recently took the opportunity, I think there's a new book out reviewing great economists of the past, and I was reading about the post-First World War and that really difficult period in Europe when Joseph Schumpeter and John Maynard Keynes were the big thinkers at the time addressing that, and many their perceptiveness as how to deal with this is still so relevant. Joseph Schumpeter with his concept of creative destruction, that we have to use the sort of destruction, the crisis, to build the dynamic of new businesses. That's such an important insight and so much part of the transformation we are trying to undertake. But also Keynes' insight about the paradox of saving. If everyone is furiously saving and trying to deleverage, you do create such downward pressures in your economy. And he was very much committed that we needed to have a stable currency, that we needed to get banking back on its feet, and that we needed a balanced approach to promoting growth. Those are the core core agendas that remain the challenge for Europe. We've been through this as a continent before, and we need to learn those lessons. And I think, as Gavin himself was saying, a lot of the challenge in Europe is educating our electorates to understand the nature of what it is we're trying to achieve in achieving growth and stability within the European. I suppose the other thing that has to be said, this is an election year in the US, and there is often, I think, in times of difficulty, the danger that people start to see trade and investment in negative terms, that protectionism can be the way to deal with economic problems. It is, of course, the very first lesson of anyone that you learn if you do economics, the mutual gains from trade. If people specialise and build to their strengths and trade, everyone gains. And I think that is very much true of the relationship that we have built between Ireland and the US. There's 100,000 people employed by US companies in Ireland. There's 120,000 people in the US employed by Irish companies operating in the States. This is a game of mutual gains. And I think that's so important for electorates to understand. The way out of this has to be through the single market and opening up markets, opening up free trade, sponsoring and growing innovation and research and expansion and opportunity. That's the route out of the recession, not seeking to batten down the hatches and hang on to what we have. Experience will show that that sort of battening down the hatches and holding on has never driven the sort of dynamic economy that we seek to create. So I'd like to just, in a formally launching, if you like, your report, thank you, each and every one of you, for your commitment to Ireland, your investment in Ireland, your support for the Irish case. You are more truly the ambassadors of the Irish cause than I can ever be. Politicians will always be seen to be peddling whatever line that the party line or the Irish line. But you, as the practitioners, are the people who can really convince, who can be the selling arms of the IDA and of Enterprise Ireland as we seek to build and transform this economy. The goal is, from a political point of view, from a social point of view, is so huge. We lost 15% of our employment base through poor policy in the past. We must now rebuild a strong economy that can support people to live and work and achieve their potential in Ireland. And US companies have been such a significant part of that vision. And I hope and believe that they will continue to be an absolutely pivotal part as we rebuild this economy. So many thanks for the opportunity to say a few words. I thought Peter would have a long list. I was sharpening my pencil to make the list of all his requests, but I think he made it fairly simple. So I have taken note of what he said. And one thing we can absolutely commit to is we are 100% committed to the process of putting employment, enterprise and exporting at the heart of our economic strategy. Yes, there'll be ups and downs, there'll be difficulties along the way, but that's the goal that we have set for ourselves, and from the Taoiseach down, it is what is driving ministers as we go about our business. Thanks very much.